Perhaps as Freedom Month commemorations unfold this month in South Africa, we continue to explore its meaning and also lived experience for citizens, our continent and the globe at a time of immense political and cultural changes. And so renowned author, activist, poet, novelist, playwright, filmmaker, Pen Freedom of Expression 2021, and most recently, Honorary Doctor of Letters recipient, Tsitsi Dangarembga, joins us virtually to chat further. Tsitsi, good morning and thank you for making time to be with us here on the SABC at this hour.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Tsitsi, in this Freedom Month observed in South Africa, I mean, we begin to reflect on the ideals of democracy at large, the continent and the world over. And I wonder if you'd like to weigh in. Perhaps we can start off by looking at what does freedom mean for you? What does freedom of speech mean for you as well?
Well, one of the best definitions I've heard that I tend to live by is that freedom is the ability to think, speak, and act as one wants. And so I think that that really encompasses all the levels of behavior of human beings. And if we think about that, it means if we can think, speak, and act as we want to, then that means that we are being free.
Think, speak and act like we want to. Speaking of which, I also want to congratulate you on your honorary doctorate from Rhodes. It's a victory for all of us. And because also you're the Pen Award for Freedom of Expression recipient in 2021, amongst many other accolades. I mean, the notion of agency really as our people have come to the fore. Citizen agency as well. That's something you've highlighted too in driving social change. Perhaps you could talk a little bit more about that, how it's also honed.
For me, citizen agency is giving people the means to understand their position, to understand why things are the way they are in life, and to be able to interrogate those things and come to decisions about how to behave as a collective in order to improve those conditions. So this is something that I have been very engaged with. I think it's fundamental to a healthy society because if citizens do not have citizen agency, it means that they can never engage and dialogue with power in order to make power aware of what they want and what they need in a persuasive way. So for me, citizen agency is one of the pillars of democracy.
Because if we look at education spaces or even just spaces at large, the decolonization of curriculum, what is studied, what's revered, from what is happening, politically, culturally, socially as well. Has it been updated enough given these changing times? I'm asking this because I also want to still look at the challenges or what remains some of the biggest challenges that you continue to face with regards to freedom in your spaces and places.
Well, I definitely think that we have not done enough work in my spaces, the work being not enough work around decolonization. Where I live in Zimbabwe and in many other Southern African and other African countries that were colonized by the British and other European states, there was something called Bantu education, which was just a form of education to enable melanated people to be useful to the colonial project as clerks or as laborers, just enough that would make them able subjects for the colonial project. And overhauling an education system is a really big task. And I think that many of our governments might have become sidelined by that. Very importantly within this is understanding the impact of language. And so the rehabilitation of local languages is also key to freedom, because the way people speak and relate in the language of their youth, of their childhood, what is called mother tongue, is very different to the way that people speak and relate in other languages. When I talk about this, I usually ask people, think about yourself and how you are when you speak one language and then move to another language. Does something move within you? The way you behave, your gestures, your tone even, does this change? And most people get to understand how fundamental language is to determining how we think and how we present. So I do feel that language is a huge area in which more has to be done. I know a lot is being done in South Africa around this, to the extent that people are also learning Kiswahili. This is absolutely wonderful. And I think that without understanding the role of language, and making language something that we can use today, whichever language that is, whatever we are doing, whether we're in the science lab, whether we are in the arts, we are not going to obtain our freedom, because it will mean that something that the colonial people took away from us has been taken away forever, and we have neglected to get it back.
Yeah, that is a pertinent point. Thank you for speaking to that. I think on that point as well, beyond, the role of language as the human experience, memory also has power. Telling stories is part of being human. Perhaps what we choose to forget and also what we choose to remember. And so as the world is shifting, it's complex and it's emotional, but we're still living into these stories that we tell about ourselves and our people and the world over. I wonder if you could weigh in on the importance of storytelling then at a time like this.
Storytelling is another absolutely important aspect of freedom, because we all have different experiences, and in communicating these experiences, we do tell stories. If we make it difficult for people to tell stories, we make it difficult for people to recognize the commonality of their experience. And the commonality of experience is what binds us together and contributes to social cohesion and collective action. So it's absolutely imperative. It is not by accident that all the colonial powers disrupted cultural systems, they disrupted means of expression, and they disrupted means of artistic expression, because they understood the link. In fact, from the British Empire comes this phrase, the metaphysical empire. And it is this metaphysical empire which is the colonization of the mind. And this was done alongside the colonization of the soil and the colonization of the body. So if we do not make spaces in which we can tell our stories in all the media that we have available to us, because people are consuming these stories in all the media. So if we say that, okay, stories only happen when children are at school, it means that we are cutting ourselves out from the kind of communication that goes on in society at all the other levels. So it is absolutely important that we can tell our stories to each other. Stories come with emotional content. They are not only logical and rational content. And so if we cannot share each other's emotions, we are unable to really relate to each other well. And this is another tactic. By making sure that people cannot relate to each other well, society is divided up and easy to control. So stories are a huge part of reclaiming our freedom also.
And to your point, becoming a voice for the voiceless is also critical. I mean, in your own works, you've explored intersectionality, gender identity, artistic freedom, and even social justice, AIDS as well. And so stories need to be told. Representation as well through writing, the novel as a public space, it's also important. Are we winning the fight against that through accessibility and affordability at large?
It is complicated because these creative industries have become an industry, and that means they are subject to the laws of industry and they need investment. And the whole structure of investment is really governed by global capital. And global capital stems from the colonial project. And so you will see that global capital follows the kinds of values and pathways of the colonial project. I think that maybe our governments have not really understood the importance of this, because they have not put enough emphasis into dismantling this system so that our industries can flourish. It is very possible to have industries that represent the storytelling and the artistic expression of the people. But this comes with the risk of the people becoming aware and developing their industry. And so I think there has been some kind of balancing act happening with some of our governments on the continent to make sure that we don't get too much freedom, we don't get too much cohesion outside of their influence. And of course, this has the added result that the whole democratic project that many of our liberation movements said they were building begins to crumble.
And so dismantling socio-political constructs like white supremacy and patriarchy, what gives you hope about the next generation? I'm asking this because we're looking at where we are the world over. And it's clear that collaboration and unity is needed now so more than ever. But we're also seeing influences where protectionism and nationalism, that agenda is being driven. Is it dividing us further? Is this actually the antidote? Will we then end up uniting? How do we withstand and remember who we are?
I think it is really important for us to understand that nationalism and regional solidarity, continental solidarity, do not need to be mutually exclusive. We have been taught this paradigm that again comes out of the West, that if you are one thing, you cannot be another. But most of us living on the continent have the experience that you can be this and you can be that at the same time. And we need to be able to take this experience that actually came to us from the colonial project, and we have to be able to put it into other situations where it will benefit us. So yes, I am a Zimbabwean, you are a South African, but it doesn't mean that we are not Southern Africans. Together we are. And there are things we can do as Southern Africans together.
Yeah.
As we are Southern Africans, it does not mean that we are not Africans. And so there are things that we can do as Africans together. And I think that we are not working as well as we can at these supranational levels. I think one of the things that we can do to counteract this is to engage people of means in our communities and explain to them the importance of this kind of national interaction and ask them to invest. One of the problems that we have on the continent is that people do not invest in ideas. If you look at the global north, it is a place where people invest in ideas. On the continent, we tend not to do that. I think we still have a colonial mentality that our ideas are not worth investing in, that the ideas that are worth investing in come from the global north. And so we still tend to follow that.
Well, we are the magic that the world's been looking for. And as you've been celebrated now, you've received or been awarded the Honorary Doctorate for Letters. Congratulations on that feat. Thank you for your work as well for the continent and for our people. We're looking forward to celebrating more milestones within the industry and transformation as well as the work continues. Aluta continua. Tsitsi, let's leave that conversation there. Tsitsi Dangarembga this morning, author, activist, weighing in this Freedom Month. Of course, also being awarded the Honorary Doctorate of Letters by Rhodes University. A hearty congratulations to her.